The sun had just begun to rise over the misty valley when the story of Diep and CEO James once again stirred the hearts of thousands. To many, their tale seems too beautiful to be true, a romance born on screen that somehow crossed into real life. But behind every cinematic moment lies a past woven with hardship, courage, and the quiet defiance of two souls who refused to give up on love. A question that captivated millions. For months, audiences have been asking the same question: are Diep and CEO James a real couple? Their YouTube videos blur the line between fiction and truth so seamlessly that it's hard to tell where the story ends and real life begins. To find the answer, one must look not just at the screen, but at the lives that inspired it. The man behind CEO James, whose real name is Bano, was born into an Ekman family in Vietnam. His upbringing was humble, his household traditional, and his siblings followed the path many in their community did: early marriage and limited education. Yet James was different. Driven by an unwavering passion for storytelling, he chose to stay in school long after others left, his eyes set on something larger than himself. He pursued film studies in the capital, captivated by the power of images and emotion. But fate had a different path for him. After graduation, his career veered toward public health, a field far removed from cinema but equally noble. Through years of dedication, James rose to an important position in a healthcare company, known among his peers not only for his intelligence but for his compassion. His colleagues often spoke of his gentle nature, his generosity, and his quiet charm that could light up even the most serious boardroom. Rumors once circulated that he had studied abroad in Singapore, but that detail, as it turns out, was borrowed from a movie script. In truth, James had never left his homeland, though his imagination had always traveled far. His turning point came unexpectedly. Inspired by the success of other Vietnamese YouTubers like Litty Kai and Green Forest Life, James rekindled his childhood dream of storytelling. He left his corporate job and began building a channel of his own, using the language of love and resilience to connect with millions. At first, success was elusive. He failed repeatedly, his early videos barely reached a few hundred views. Yet with persistence, he discovered his voice through Lidieka, a channel that touched the lives of millions with deeply emotional stories about single mothers, rural hardship, and hope. Each video was tender, human, and painfully real. Little did the audience know, the heart behind those stories was already entangled with one from his own past, Diep. The woman who inspired it all. Diep, whose real name is Quynh, came from the same small town as James. Their story began long before YouTube or fame, in the dusty corridors of their high school. Back then, they were inseparable. Two dreamers with quiet hearts, bound by shared laughter and the fragile innocence of first love. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Cultural and family pressures pulled them apart. James went off to study, Quynh married another man. Their lives diverged sharply, his toward ambition, hers toward endurance. Quynh's marriage brought her a beautiful daughter named Ni, but also years of quiet suffering. Her husband's sudden death in a car accident left her to raise her child alone, returning to her parents' farm to survive. For years, she worked the fields at dawn and cared for her daughter at dusk, her spirit both hardened and softened by loss. It was during one of his visits home that James saw her again. She was standing by the rice terraces with little Ni at her side, a sight that rekindled all the emotions he thought time had buried. Her quiet strength, her resilience, and her warmth stirred something deep within him. He knew he still loved her. Love rekindled against all odds. Their reunion, however, was not a simple one. When James confessed his feelings and asked to start anew, Quynh hesitated. The scars of her past ran deep. And when word reached James's family, opposition followed swiftly. His parents worried about social gossip, that their son, a well-educated man from a respected family, was choosing a woman who had once been married and had a child. But love, as James would later say in an interview, isn't measured by others' whispers. It's measured by your heart when you're alone. He stood firm, determined to prove that his feelings were genuine. And so, the idea for a new YouTube series was born, Diep, a fictionalized version of their love story, part truth, part imagination. In this series, the heroine, Diep, is a single mother abandoned by her husband's family. The hero, James, is a young CEO returning from Singapore. Their worlds collide in unexpected ways, mirroring the couple's own journey, one filled with pain, resilience, and forgiveness. The project became an unexpected phenomenon. Viewers from around the world were drawn to the sincerity in their performances. Every glance, every touch, every silence between them seemed to carry the weight of real love, and perhaps it did. The lines between fiction and reality dissolved until even their audience could no longer separate them. From real to real, the massive success of their channel transformed both their lives. It wasn't just a professional victory, it was a personal triumph. The authenticity of their emotions won over not only fans but also James's parents. Seeing how deeply their son and Quynh loved each other, they finally gave their blessing. Months later, news broke that James and Quynh had officially registered their marriage and were preparing for a wedding. What began as a love story on-screen was now unfolding in real life. The wedding of dreams. Their wedding was unlike any other. Held in a hidden valley surrounded by emerald rice terraces and soft mountain mist, the ceremony was a blend of tradition, nature, and quiet grandeur. The space was decorated with wildflowers and bamboo, draped in hand-embroidered brocade fabrics that shimmered under the afternoon light. Guests sat at long tables covered in linen and candlelight, while soft music from bamboo flutes floated in the air. The bride, Quynh, was radiant. Her gown, pure white, embroidered with delicate brocade motifs, symbolized both elegance and heritage. James, dressed in a simple black suit accented with a brocade tie, looked every bit the gentleman who had fought for love and found it at last. Little Nee, dressed like a tiny princess, scattered rose petals ahead of her mother as she walked toward the altar. The ceremony opened with a traditional mound blessing, the elders invoking the spirits of the land to protect the couple. When Quynn's father took her arm and led her toward James, the valley fell silent. Beneath an arch woven with orchids and bamboo, James gently slid a ring onto her finger, a simple band, but one that glittered with years of waiting and hope. Then came a moment that no one would forget. James knelt before Little Nee, offering her a rose and a small necklace. From today, he said softly, I promise to protect you and love you as my own. The audience wept. A celebration of love and acceptance. As twilight settled, paper lanterns illuminated the night like drifting stars. Guests feasted on local delicacies, grilled mountain fish, wild herbs, and sweet rice wine, while live musicians played love songs on traditional instruments. Laughter echoed through the valley. During his speech, James thanked everyone who had stood by them, especially his parents, whose acceptance had turned their love into something complete. Quynh, her voice trembling with emotion, thanked James for bringing light into her life, and for giving her daughter a new father. When they cut their three-tiered wedding cake beneath the glow of fireworks, applause filled the air. For those watching, it wasn't just a wedding, it was the triumph of love over prejudice, resilience over despair, and truth over fear. Epilogue. Beyond the screen. Today, their story continues to inspire millions. Whether fans first met them through YouTube or through the quiet whispers of their community, everyone agrees on one thing: their love feels real. Perhaps it doesn't matter how much of their story began as fiction. What matters is the hope it gives. Their journey reminds us that love, in all its forms, is a story worth telling again and again, not because it's perfect, but because it's true to the heart.